everyone, it's Miss Teacher Teaches Tech here. Today I'm going to show you how to create a quiz using Google Forms that you can post on your online classroom. If you're new to my channel, my name is Destiny. I am a 7th grade ELA public school teacher in the state of North Carolina, and I upload these videos to show you how to integrate tech within your classroom. Let's get started.
Okay, so right here I have Google Forms opened, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create like a sample example quiz just to kind of show you how all of these elements work. Now this is going to be an ELA based example quiz, but the resources and the different tips and tricks that I'm teaching you can be applied to any subject area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name the title of my quiz. Let's just say that I'm giving a quiz of a short story to my students. So I'm going to say the smallest Dragon Boy quiz. And then below there is an area for a form description. So here you can actually type in like a brief summary of like what the quiz is going to be about. So I can say, alright, so that would just give like your kids like a little summary of what the quiz is going to be about. So what we're going to do is, in order for Google Forms to recognize that this is going to be a quiz, is we need to tweak some settings real quick. So what we need to do is we need to go to the settings gear at the top, have 3 different things that pop up on the top of your screen here. What we need to do is we need to stay in general real quick. If you only want your students responding one time to this quiz, you need to make sure you click this checkbox that says limit to 1 response, where they're required to sign into Google, so that way you can track who has done what. Afterwards, we need to go to quizzes, and we need to toggle this button that says make this a quiz, so that way Google Forms recognize that what we're trying to do is a quiz. There are several options here. If your school has managed Chromebooks, you can click the turn on locked mode for Chromebooks, meaning that if a student decides to take a quiz on a Chromebook, they are not able to switch to another window, and it really prevents cheating. Then under release grade, we have several options here. We have immediately after each submission, where the kid sees their grade after they submit their quiz, or later, where you can turn it on at a later time. You can also check whether or not they see missed questions, correct answers, or point values. So I'm going to click save. Okay, so now Google Forms recognizes that this form is being treated as a quiz. Make sure that you name your quiz. If you just simply click, it will name it whatever title you decided to give it. Okay, so now we're going to focus on the questions. So when you go to make a question, you have several options here as far as if you want to make it short answer, paragraph, multiple choice, using checkboxes, drop-down menu, file upload, linear scale, multiple choice, checkbox grid, date and time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on everything but the date and time. You're not going to really use that in a quiz setting. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start with a multiple choice question. Now I have my question down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some potential answers for this question. And let's just say that, I don't want any of my students skipping this question by accident or refusing to answer it before they submit their quiz. I want to make sure that this required button is toggled on. Now let's just say that the second answer is the correct answer. I need to go to answer key, and here I can select which one is going to be the correct answer. I can put a point value as to how many points I want this question to count, and I can also put in add answer feedback. And that will give them some feedback. You can also do this with correct answers as well. So I could say, good job. I can, provide a link or a video, and then I can save. So that is an example of a multiple choice question. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this little plus button on the right side of my screen, and it says add question. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And instead of doing a multiple choice question, maybe I want them to write me a short essay. So I'm going to click on paragraph, and let's just say for my question, I want to, ask an open-ended response question where I'm not getting necessarily a yes or no answer, but where they actually have to think about their response and they have to provide a in-depth analysis of what's being asked. So this is going to be a paragraph. And here, students will be able to type in their answer based off of the question. Again, I don't want them to skip this. A lot of them will try to skip the essay question if you let them, and they will if you let them. Make sure that's on required. Alright, then I'm going to go to answer key, and let's just say that, I want this to count for a large portion of their quiz. I'll put 40 points in. And obviously, whenever you're doing short, open-ended answers and dealing with paragraph answers, their quiz is not going to be automatically graded, but instead you have to go in and provide that manual feedback and read through their responses, and then you can assess how many points they will receive on that written portion, and then it will calculate their grade for them. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press add question again, and I want a different type of question. I want to ask them a question where they have to use a drop down menu. So for their question, maybe I'm going back to one of my standards, and instead of asking about the story in general, maybe I want them to tell me what indirect characterization is. So here I'm going to type in my answers that they can select from. Alright, so from here, students are going to have to choose their answer using a drop-down menu. So again, I want this to be required. I'm going to go to my answer key, and I am going to, let's just say, make this worth 10 points. And then I can have feedback here again, if I wanted to place that. And then you can select the answer simply just by clicking on it and pressing done. Now I'm going to add my next question, and I'm going to do checkboxes. So for this next question, I'm going to put, and just like usual, you go to your answer key, you type in how many points you want it to count as, and then you can select which answers are the correct answers. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to do a question that requires a file upload. So basically what this allows students to do is you can ask them a question, and then they can upload a file in order to show their understanding of that question or that skill that you're asking them to do using Google. So I'm asking students to go onto Google Images, and I'm only wanting an image. So you can select what type of file you want to accept, and then you can have your students upload it that way. Let's just say I only want one file, so I'm just going to leave it at 1. And for maximum file size, let's just say 100 megabytes just to be safe. Images aren't usually that big, but we just want to be safe. And then students will be able to go to Google Images. They will be able to select the photo that they want to use. They can save this directly to their Google Drive if they have a Chromebook, or they can save it to their computer and upload it to their Google Drive, and then they will be able to submit that into their quiz for that question. The next type of question that I want to show is a linear scale. So I'm going to give an example of how I would use a linear scale for, I guess, like an ELA question. And then so I have 1, 2, and then I can select the number that I have chosen, and I've chosen 3. And then so for number 1, I can put in a label. It's optional, but I can do that from clarity. I can make it required. So the next question that I want to show you is the multiple choice grid. A lot of people kind of steer away from this one just because it seems overwhelming and complex, but it really isn't that bad as long as you don't make it that bad. For multiple choice question, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the main characters from the story. For rows, this is going to appear on, of course, the rows, and then for the columns is what they're going to be able to select. And I want them to have a response in each row. Done. And so what they're going to be able to do is they're going to see Kevon and Beaterly, and then they have to select which description is appropriate for that character. So here they have the characters here, and then they have to select one characteristic for those characters. And then the last type of question that I'm going to show you today is the checkbox grid. I'm going to do something very similar to what I did with the multiple choice grid, but the checkbox grid, it's essentially like the multiple choice grid, but instead of choosing one answer for each row, students can select multiple answers for each row. And here in my column section, I can put other different types of characteristics that I want my students to choose from. Whenever they get to this question, they will be able to check off multiples of different characteristics if that applies to those characters. The thing that I want to show you is how to lock this quiz down and to make sure that your students aren't able to access it in Google Classroom until you want them to access it. So yes, you can schedule it, but if you just want to kind of put it up on Google Classroom and just like wipe your hands clean from it and just have it sit up there to let the kids know that the quiz is coming, but you don't want them to access it just yet, I'm going to show you how to password lock your quiz, and only the students who have the password can access the quiz. So what we need to do first is we need to scroll all the way back up to our quiz, and we need to click on the header. When we do this, Google Forms recognizes that we're about to focus on that section. So what we need to do is we need to click Add Section. What this is going to do, it's going to add another section for us. So here we have section 1 of 2, and then right here we have section 2 of 2. So basically what we've done is we've separated the title and the actual content of the quiz. So here where it says untitled section, we can just say questions, and then for the description we can give more detailed directions on what to do. Alright, so now we have section 1 and we have our section 2, but now we need to get to the password section. So what we're going to do is we're going to click back up to section 1, and we're going to click add question, and we're going to change this drop down menu to short answer. So for our question, we can put password. We get this dialog box that comes up, and pretty much what this is telling us is that it recognizes that we want to set a password. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a number, and we're going to change number to regular expression, and then we're going to change contains to matches. So whatever they put in, we want the password to match what we have. So here I'm going to type in the password that I'm going to set for my quiz that I will eventually give to my students, and I want it to be exact. Students will have to type exactly that in with no caps because I don't have any caps here. And then if they got the password wrong, then I want an error message to pop up, and maybe I want that to say, that is incorrect, please try again. And we do definitely need this question required, because if it's not required, then they can just go to the next menu and just do the quiz. We don't want any points assigned to this because it's just a password, it's not an actual real question. And so what we're going to do is we're going to click done. So if you click this little eye icon up at the top right hand corner that says preview, you can actually see what your quiz is going to look like before you actually send it off to the kids. So here we have our password box, and let's say for example I thought the password was lettuce. So I'm going to type in lettuce, I'm going to press next, and it's not going to let me in unless I have that password. So I'm going to type in pumpkin, and here it's bringing me to my next section, that's section 2 that we set up, and I have all my questions here. So here's my multiple choice, here is my paragraph response. What is indirect characterization? Here I have my drop down menu where I can select from the 3 options that I have. Here I have a checkbox where I can select multiple answers. Here is where I have the ability to add a file. So here students can upload their picture that they found. We're going to upload the one that we found earlier. Press upload. That bad boy is going to upload into there, and it's going to appear right there in the answer box. The next question is the linear. So they just select on a scale. The next one is the multiple choice grid where they have to select one answer per row. And then the next one is a checkbox grid where they can select multiple answers for each row. And then they will submit, And just for an example, this is what mine looks like, and it shows the students the wrong answers. As you can see, Google Forms has not graded those open response questions and those questions that need review. So there's ellipses there instead of a numerical grade, and that is for you to go in and manually change. However, if you have multiple choice questions or questions that are true or false, A, B, C, D, black and white, you can have the quiz automatically be graded and it will automatically give them that full grade. But if you're putting in paragraph responses or having them upload a file, you are going to have to go back, look at what they submitted, and then type in that individual point basis for what they've earned. Another thing that I want to touch on is analyzing student data. So if you go to the tab that says responses, as you can see, we've already taken our quiz and that's going to be our response. So if we click that, we have our insights here. We have average, what was made, the median, and the range of points that was distributed. You have a section for frequently missed questions. You have questions broken down and what percentage of students selected which answers. You can see what type of files were uploaded and put up in the file upload section. And you can see what students put for each of their answers. One last thing that I want to cover that's not really necessarily important, but I mean, it's like a design factor. You can kind of customize your forms, like the way it looks. You can choose a theme color. You can choose a header image. It just kind of gives it a little bit more of a pop, and it just makes it kind of visually attractive for you and your students. You can also change the font style. You have 4 that Google Forms gives you. I typically stick with the basic because I think that looks the best and the cleanest for students, especially with those who have learning disabilities or issues reading cursive or weird looking font. So I just stick with basic. It's the biggest, the cleanest, and the clearest, I think, that helps students. While watching this video, if you found that Google Forms is going to be helpful for you in your classroom, especially during remote learning, what I've done is I've created a free weekly check-in. You can make a copy of this and customize this to your own needs. There are different answer choices like we've discussed in the video, as far as multiple choice, short answer, linear, and a drop-down menu. If you're interested in getting this free weekly check-in, please check out the description box down below where I have a link to this Google form, and you can make a copy and modify it to your needs.
So I hope you found this video helpful on how to use Google Forms to see where your kids are for whatever you're assessing them with. If you found this video helpful, please drop a like, and if you are a teacher interested in learning how to integrate technology into your classroom, please subscribe to the channel. I appreciate your support and I appreciate you watching this video. Until next time, see you guys.